Hey, welcome to Wildman Adventures. This episode we're going to go trail riding with the 1920s and 30s cars. This is off-roading in the 1920s style. So back in the 1920s, there wasn't any highways, there wasn't really any roads. They were just trails, so it was an adventure. If you had to go to town, it wasn't like you did nowadays where you jump in your car and 5 minutes later you're at the grocery store. Back in the day, you would pack all your stuff up and you would expect it to take you the whole day to get maybe 10 miles up the road because you were running through a woods like this, and maybe a horse trail or really wasn't much of anything. Sometimes you had to cut your own path. So there really wasn't any off-roading back then. It was all off-road. Okay, we're on day 2 of our little adventure here, and I'm going to go through some of the cars and some unique things about them. This car here is my 25 Dodge Brothers, which you guys have seen other videos that I do with it. It's my favorite little car. It's got wooden wheels. It's a 1925. Now, one of the unique things with Dodge Brothers was when they started in 1914, they had a 12-volt electrical system. Most everybody at the time had 6-volt. They were ahead of their time. I think if they wouldn't have died in the early 20s, they would have been a lot bigger, I think, than General Motors or any of the other companies out there, or even Ford. But it's kind of a unique. It's a little motor. It's only a little 4-cylinder. We run out of power on some of the hills. We have to really downshift and really work it. When you go out with these little things, they are definitely an adventure. But this is kind of a neat thing. It's a 12-volt starter and generator all in one. So that is chain driven off the front of the motor, and it's actually a generator and a starter both in one. You can see the little itty bitty carburetor. It's got a vacuum system instead of a fuel pump. It creates vacuum in here from the motor, which sucks gas from the tank in here, and then this regulates getting it down into the carburetor, which also has a set of floats in it. They're not super complicated, but a lot of guys don't understand them, so a lot of guys replace them and put electric fuel pumps. But if you've got this system working the way it was supposed to be in the old days, they're pretty reliable. You got a little greaser here for the fan bearing. You got to turn that a little bit. Every time you turn it a little bit, it puts oil or grease into the bearings. You kind of got to go through things, and you have to grease and oil things and keep everything working. So this car here is my dad's 1929 Chevy. One of the unique things with this car is it's got steel disc wheels, which were just coming in back in those days. Most everybody had the wooden artillery wheels that kind of moved over from the wagon world and the buggy world. So this was kind of a new thing back in the day. Steel wheels, a lot stronger. Okay, this is Donna and Mark Strikers. They're friends of mine. You guys probably seen them in one of the earlier episodes. They had their 31 Graham-Paige with us. This was a pretty unique car. It's the most modern car that we had on our tour. It's a 31. Has a little bit nicer features than some of our older 20 cars, but it's a pretty neat car, and it's even a little bit bigger and heavier. Another one of the cars on the tour is Mark and Shelley Deal's 30 Durant, a 1930 Durant. It's kind of a unique story if you ever get a chance to look up Mr. Durant. He was the guy who actually formed General Motors Corporation, and in the late 20s, General Motors, he had enough investors and enough board members that they actually pushed him out of General Motors. So he came out with his own car company called the Durant, and then also later on formed American Motors, which a lot of you are familiar with, who had a lot of different car brands into it. American Motors never took off as good as General Motors did, but he tried the same concept. A very brilliant man. It's really sad because towards the end of his history, he actually died pretty much a... Okay, this car here is a 1926 Model T Ford, and this is owned by Dallas and Kelly Landers. They're friends of mine. You've probably seen them in some of our videos. Dallas showed us how to drive a TT truck about a year ago in one of our videos. This is his little roadster pickup truck, and he has a lot of fun with this thing. You can see it's had a lot of miles put on it. Okay, this is my 1928 Dodge Brothers Coupe. This is the one my son JJ always loves to drive. The thing kind of has a street rod stance to it. It's pretty cool. It's a 28. Now, by 1926, the Dodge Brothers, the engineers that was running the Dodge Brothers, they thought that they ought to go back to 6-volt for the electronics because everybody else was 6-volt. The Dodge Brothers had passed away by then, so the engineers were following other people instead of innovating. So this one's a 6-volt system, kind of a neat looking old little car.